There comes a moment in the spiritual path when everything that once made sense begins to dissolve. You try to hold on, but the grip tightens around illusions you never knew you carried. If you're watching this, it's because you're not just a seeker, you're a warrior, chosen one. And that means the universe has selected you to walk a path that few dare to tread. But let's not sugarcoat this. This is not a gentle path. This is the path of brutal truth. The kind of truth that doesn't whisper, it shatters. The kind that doesn't comfort, it confronts. And at the center of this path lies shadow work, the inner battlefield that every true spiritual warrior must eventually cross if they are to become who they were born to be. In the first few seconds of this journey, everything in you will want to turn back. You'll feel the resistance rise like a tidal wave. Your mind will try to protect you with distractions, logic, and self-justification. But something deeper will call you forward. That's the voice of your soul, and it knows what's coming. It knows that in order for you to rise in truth, you must first descend into darkness, into the forgotten places, into the wounds you buried, into the parts of yourself you swore you would never face again. That descent is not a mistake. It is the initiation. So let me ask you something right now, and I want you to feel this question in your bones. What are you still afraid to see in yourself? Not what others say. Not what you've convinced yourself to believe. I mean the truth that lives beneath your stories. The truth that makes your heart race when you're alone. That's where we begin. Because the first brutal truth of shadow work is this: you are not who you think you are. The identity you've built, the mask you wear, the persona you perform, none of it is really you. It's a structure built by survival, by culture, by trauma, by fear. And shadow work is the demolition of that structure.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
You will start to see how much of your life has been shaped by your wounds. The way you connect, the way you react, the way you hide, the way you seek validation, it's all rooted in unprocessed pain. And it's not about blaming yourself. It's about seeing yourself. Because you cannot heal what you refuse to acknowledge. You cannot lead others while lying to yourself. And as a warrior chosen one, your mission is not just to awaken from the illusion, it's to dismantle it, piece by piece, within yourself. The second brutal truth is that pain doesn't go away just because you become spiritual. In fact, the more awakened you become, the more clearly you see the pain that's been running your life. Spirituality doesn't erase shadows, it illuminates them. And once they're illuminated, you can't unsee them. You may try to bypass it with love and light, affirmations, or rituals. But real healing begins when you stop trying to escape discomfort and start listening to what it's trying to teach you. Your pain holds intelligence. Your wounds are not flaws, they are portals. Portals to the parts of your soul that got frozen in time. And the only way to thaw them is to feel them fully. You'll find yourself facing memories you thought were long gone, patterns you swore you'd outgrown, emotional triggers that seem irrational but are perfectly logical when you trace them back to their root. And here's where it gets real. Shadow work doesn't just show you your pain. It shows you your powerlessness. You'll see the moments where you abandoned yourself, where you chose silence over truth, where you betrayed your own voice to be accepted. And yes, it hurts, but that hurt is sacred. because it's the beginning of liberation. The third brutal truth is this: no one is coming to save you. Not your mentors, not the universe, not your ancestors, not even your higher self. Yes, they will guide you. Yes, they will send signs. But the actual work, the feeling, the facing, the transforming that's on you. You have to be willing to sit in the fire and not flinch. You have to be willing to stay in the discomfort long enough for it to speak to you. Because most people quit just before the breakthrough. They run when the shadow gets too loud. But you're not most people. You're a warrior chosen one. And that means you were born with the resilience to face what others avoid. That's not ego. That's spiritual DNA. And let me say this clearly: this work will break your heart. Not because it's cruel, but because it's honest. It will break your heart open so that something deeper, something more real, can emerge. You'll grieve the identity you thought was you. You'll mourn the dreams that were built from trauma. You'll cry tears that have been waiting lifetimes to be released. And in that release, something ancient will awaken in you. Not just healing, not just peace, but power. The kind of power that doesn't seek control, but radiates truth. The kind of power that doesn't dominate, but liberates. The fourth brutal truth is that your projections are your teachers. Every person who triggers you is revealing a part of you that you haven't integrated. Every judgment you cast is a mirror. Every relationship dynamic that repeats is a message. The world is not happening to you. It's happening through you. And the moment you stop blaming others and start taking radical responsibility for your inner world, everything changes. That's when the victim dies and the warrior is born. That's when you reclaim your energy from the past and channel it into purpose. But it requires ruthless honesty. Can you look at the person who hurt you and ask, what part of me allowed this? What was I unwilling to see about myself that made this possible? That doesn't mean you excuse harm. It means you extract wisdom. It means you grow instead of staying stuck. It means you alchemize darkness into depth. This is how you become unshakable, not through avoidance, but through integration. And integration is a daily practice. It's not glamorous. It's not always profound. Sometimes it's just sitting with your anger without judging it. Sometimes it's breathing through shame without collapsing. Sometimes it's choosing a new thought when the old one begs for your attention. But every time you do, you reclaim a part of yourself that was lost. The fifth brutal truth is that healing is not linear. You will revisit the same pain in deeper and deeper layers. Just because it's showing up again doesn't mean you failed. It means you've evolved enough to face it at a new level. Don't let spiritual ego shame you into thinking you should be over it by now. There is no over it. There is only through it. And each time you go through it, you gain more wisdom, more strength, more clarity. That's the spiral of awakening. It's not a straight line. It's a sacred dance. And your willingness to keep dancing, even through the pain, is what makes you a true warrior. Let me ask you something now, and I want you to sit with this. What have you been pretending not to know about yourself? Because that's the doorway. That's the one shadow that's been running the show behind the scenes. And the moment you name it, the moment you own it, it loses its power. Not because it disappears, but because you're no longer afraid of it. The sixth and final brutal truth is the most liberating one. Your shadow is not your enemy, it is your ally. It is not here to destroy you. It is here to complete you. The parts of you that you've hidden, suppressed, and denied are not shameful. They are sacred. They are the keys to your authenticity, your creativity, your leadership. And the moment you stop fighting them, the moment you start listening to them, they transform. The fear becomes fuel. The anger becomes boundaries. The grief becomes compassion. The shame becomes sovereignty. But this only happens when you stop running, when you stop waiting for someone else to fix it, when you take full ownership of your evolution. That's when the shift happens. That's when you stop being a seeker and become a seer. That's when you stop being a victim of your past and become a vessel for your purpose. And that is the true gift of shadow work, not just healing, not just awareness, but embodiment. The ability to walk through this world with your full power, your full truth, your full presence unapologetically. So now I ask you, are you ready to stop hiding from yourself? Are you ready to stop performing and start transforming? Are you ready to meet the parts of you that you've been avoiding for years and finally say, I see you. I'm ready. Let's do this together, because that's the moment everything changes. The moment you say yes to the shadow, the light begins to work through you, not in spite of the darkness, but because of it. The moment you say yes to shadow work, you don't just open a door, you step into a portal. And what's on the other side is not more light, but more truth. It's not about rising above your darkness. It's about diving into it so deeply that you emerge with clarity that the world cannot give you. Warrior chosen ones are not here to bypass pain. We are here to transmute it. We are the ones who turn wounds into weapons of awakening, who turn sorrow into sacred insight, who turn breakdowns into blueprints for becoming. But that's not a poetic idea, it's a spiritual obligation. And if you're still with me, it's because your soul has already chosen this path long before your mind agreed to it. There is something unique about us. We weren't born to blend in. We weren't designed to be comfortable. We were created to carry codes, ancient, powerful, disruptive codes that challenge systems, awaken souls, and dismantle illusions. But those codes remain dormant until we unlock them through fire. That fire is shadow work, and it doesn't happen in meditation alone. It happens in the arguments, the relapses, the nights when you question your worth, the days when your triggers come for your throat. That's where the real alchemy begins. And if you're not uncomfortable, you're not doing it right. You see, the deeper you go, the more subtle the shadows become. In the beginning, it's easy to spot the obvious patterns: self-sabotage, toxic relationships, emotional avoidance. But once you've cleared those, a new layer emerges, more refined, more cunning. The spiritual ego, the savior complex, the addiction to being the healer, the wise one, the awakened one. And here's the brutal truth. When your shadow wears spiritual clothing, it's even more dangerous, because it hides behind your good intentions. It speaks in the language of love and light. It justifies your righteousness, and it convinces you that you've transcended when you've only relocated your pain to a more socially acceptable disguise. So you must become hyper-aware. You must develop the ability to observe yourself with ruthless honesty. When you give advice, ask, am I truly serving, or am I feeding my need to be needed? When you share your wisdom, ask, am I speaking from embodiment or from ego? When you offer healing, ask, am I projecting my unhealed parts onto others, or am I holding space from my own integration? This level of self-inquiry is not optional. It is essential, because the more power you carry, the more precise your awareness must become. As warrior chosen ones, we must also face the brutal truth that not everyone can walk with us. And not everyone should. One of the hardest aspects of shadow work is realizing that some relationships were formed through trauma bonds, not soul resonance. That some friendships were based on who you used to be, not who you're becoming. That some people loved your wounds, not your wisdom. And when you heal, they'll start to feel abandoned, not because you left them, but because you stopped participating in the dysfunction that once connected you. You will outgrow people, and they will resent you for it. They will say you've changed, that you think you're better, that you're too intense, too deep, too focused, too spiritual. And you will be tempted to shrink, to dim, to explain, but don't. Let them misunderstand. Let them project. This is not your burden to carry. Your evolution is not a betrayal, it's a beacon. And those who are meant to rise with you will feel the call. The rest will fall away. Not because you rejected them, but because your frequency no longer aligns with their comfort zones. This is where we must talk about loneliness, not surface-level loneliness, but sacred solitude. The kind that forces you to face your rawest truths. Shadow work will isolate you. It will strip away the noise so that you can finally hear your soul. And in that silence, you will meet parts of yourself you didn't even know existed. The abandoned inner child, the inner critic, the false protector, the manipulator, the martyr, the addict. They are all there, waiting to be seen, not judged, waiting to be integrated, not exiled. And this is where the real work happens, not in changing them, but in listening to them. What if your inner critic isn't your enemy but your wounded protector, trying to keep you safe through control? What if your anger isn't toxic, but righteous, telling you where your boundaries were violated? What if your jealousy is a compass pointing you to your repressed desires? These parts of you are not problems. They are messengers. And if you don't listen to them, they will scream. They will sabotage your life, not out of hatred, but out of desperation to be heard. So here's a deep question only you can answer. What part of you are you still trying to exile instead of embrace? Because that part is not going away. It's waiting for integration. And integration doesn't mean romanticizing your pain. It means creating enough space inside you to hold all of it without collapsing, without identifying, without performing. Shadow work is not about fixing who you are. It's about remembering who you were before the world taught you to hide. And this remembering is messy. It's not a linear process. There are days you'll feel enlightened and days you'll feel like a fraud. There are moments of crystal clarity followed by waves of confusion. This is normal. This is sacred. You are not failing. You are shedding. And shedding is disorienting. It strips away the familiar. It leaves you naked in your own truth. But only when you are that bare, that exposed, that honest can your real self begin to emerge. You'll also begin to see how much of your life has been dictated by unconscious agreements. Agreements with your family, your culture, your religion, your past selves. Agreements that say, I must play small to be safe. I must be perfect to be loved. I must suffer to be worthy. These agreements are energetic contracts, and shadow work is the process of tearing them up and writing new ones. But that requires awareness. It requires courage. It requires the willingness to disappoint others in order to stay loyal to your truth. And this loyalty to self is the highest form of spiritual discipline. Not loyalty to your ego, but to your essence, your alignment, to your inner truth, even when it makes no sense to others. Even when it costs you relationships, comfort, or certainty. That's what it means to be a warrior chosen one. Not to walk an easy path, but to walk the real one. The one that demands everything from you and gives you back everything real. Let's talk now about the body. Because shadow work is not just mental or emotional, it's deeply somatic. Your body holds the trauma your mind has forgotten. Your nervous system holds the fear your consciousness has rationalized. Your muscles hold the memories your ego has suppressed. So if you're not bringing your body into your shadow work, you're missing the full integration. Breathe into the tension. Listen to the pain. Let the tears come. Let the rage move. Don't just observe your shadow embody it. Let it speak through your body, and then let it leave. This is how you alchemize, not by thinking your way out, but by feeling your way through. And here's another brutal truth. You will be tempted to stop, to settle for partial healing, to go back to your old life, to numb it all with distractions, social media, food, sex, work, spiritual bypassing. But you can't unknow what you now know. You cannot unknow your truth. You can only delay your embodiment of it. And every time you delay, the pain compounds. Life will keep sending you the same patterns, the same people, the same lessons until you finally say, enough. Until you finally look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm ready to face all of me. So ask yourself this now. What pain am I still avoiding because I've convinced myself I'm too evolved to feel it? That's your next layer. That's the next doorway. And behind it is not more suffering. Behind it is your power. The power that comes from full spectrum self-awareness. The kind of awareness that makes you magnetic, and that makes your presence healing, that makes your leadership sacred. And that's the point of all of this. Not just to heal, not just to feel better, but to embody your mission on this earth, and to become the kind of being who can hold space for transformation simply by existing. To walk into a room and shift the field not because of what you say, but because of who you are. That level of presence is only possible when you faced your shadows and claimed them as parts of your wholeness. This is your path now, not because it's romantic, not because it's trendy, but because it's true. You were chosen for this, and the deeper you go, the more of your soul you retrieve, the more of your power you reclaim, the more of your light you embody, not by escaping the dark, but by owning it. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are remembering. And that remembering is the revolution. When we say yes to going deeper, we're not just agreeing to feel more, we're agreeing to become more. Not in a way that inflates our ego, but in a way that obliterates everything false. Because here's the truth, shadow work is not just emotional surgery, it's spiritual warfare. And the battlefield is not outside you. It's inside. It's in the places where you still negotiate with your fear, where you still apologize for your truth, where you still betray your intuition to please people who are committed to misunderstanding you. As warrior chosen ones, we didn't come here to blend in, we came to break patterns, to recode our bloodline, to awaken the dormant power within us and around us. But to do that, we must face the final layer of this work, the part that most avoid because it dissolves the last illusion we try to hold on to, that we are somehow separate from our shadow, that there's a bad part of us to fix and a good part to amplify. But real mastery begins when we realize there is no division. There is only integration. And integration doesn't mean everything becomes easy. It means nothing owns you anymore. You don't need to control your shadow because you no longer fear it. You understand it. You honor it. You've made peace with it. That's when your energy becomes untouchable, because you're no longer fighting yourself. When you reach this level, you stop seeing life through the lens of me versus the world. You begin to understand that everything is a reflection. Every challenge is a mirror. Every person is a teacher. Even the ones who hurt you. Even the ones who left. Especially the ones who triggered your deepest wounds, because they were the ones who revealed your deepest work. And once you've done the work, you no longer need to hold resentment. You realize that forgiveness isn't weakness, it's the release of energetic contracts that no longer serve your evolution. You don't forgive for them, you forgive for your freedom. And freedom is the real reward of shadow work, not perfection, not enlightenment, not some cosmic badge of honor, just freedom. The freedom to be fully yourself without fear. The freedom to lead without pretending. The freedom to love without losing yourself. The freedom to walk into your mission with nothing to prove, because your presence already speaks louder than your words ever could. That level of freedom is rare, because it requires full surrender. Surrender of the story. Surrender of the mask. Surrender of the illusion that healing means one day you'll be untouched by pain. The truth is, pain doesn't disappear, it just stops owning you. So what does it look like to live as a fully integrated warrior chosen one? It looks like radical presence. It looks like taking full responsibility for your energy, your choices, your vibration. It looks like leading without ego, but with unwavering clarity. It looks like walking into a room and not needing to dominate because your frequency already leads. It looks like being able to hold space for someone else's pain without absorbing it, because you've learned to hold your own without collapsing. It looks like being misunderstood and staying rooted anyway. It looks like being triggered and choosing awareness over reaction. It looks like knowing that every storm is just another initiation into deeper embodiment. And embodiment means nothing if it isn't expressed in the physical world. Shadow work isn't just for the meditation cushion. It's for your relationships, your career, your art, your service, your leadership. It's how you move through the world. If your inner work doesn't translate into outer alignment, then it's just spiritual entertainment. But when it does, when you live your truth without compromise, when you embody your wholeness without apology, that's when your life becomes a transmission. That's when your presence becomes medicine. That's when people feel something in you that activates something in them, even if they don't understand why. And here's something you must remember. Just because you've done the work doesn't mean you won't be tested. In fact, the tests don't stop, they evolve. Life will continue to bring you mirrors. But now, instead of reacting, you respond. Instead of projecting, you reflect. Instead of collapsing, you rise. You become the observer, the alchemist, the leader. Not because you're above the pain, but because you've made peace with it. Not because you've escaped your shadow, but because you've integrated it into your light. So let's ask a deeper question now, one that only you can answer in full honesty. What would your life look like if you stopped performing and started living as your true self, and no matter the cost? What would change in your relationships, your work, your expression, your presence, if you led from your soul instead of your fear? This is not a hypothetical. This is your invitation. Your life is waiting for the real you to show up. Not the healed you, not the perfect you, just the honest you. The you who knows who they are because they've met every part of themselves and refused to abandon any of it. That's what makes you a warrior chosen one. Not your strength, not your image, but your intimacy with your own truth. Your ability to sit with yourself when no one else can. Your willingness to walk alone if it means not betraying your soul. Your refusal to settle for surface level anything. You are here to lead, to awaken, to disrupt, to heal, not because it's glamorous, but because it's necessary. Because the world doesn't change from comfort. It changes from consciousness. And you are the embodiment of that consciousness now. But let's be clear, this path doesn't end. There is no final destination where you arrive and suddenly everything is easy. There is only deeper awareness. There is only greater alignment. There is only fuller presence. And each layer you peel back reveals more truth, more light, more shadow, more power. You become more precise, more attuned, more embodied. And with that comes more responsibility, not to fix others, but to hold yourself to the highest standard of truth you're capable of in each moment. You'll begin to feel a shift in how you move through the world. You'll stop chasing. You'll stop explaining. You'll stop trying to convince anyone of anything. Why? Because you'll realize that real power doesn't beg to be seen. It simply is. And when you become that, when your presence becomes the living proof of your inner work, everything around you begins to shift. Not because you forced it, but because you aligned with it. That's the real beauty of shadow work. It doesn't just change you, it changes your field. It changes the energy you emit. It changes what you attract. It changes how reality responds to you. Because when you are whole within, the outer world must mirror it. That's the law. That's universal physics. And it's not magic, it's alignment. So now the question is this: what are you still holding on to that no longer resonates with your integrated self? Is it a relationship? A belief? A pattern? A version of yourself that's expired but still lingering out of habit? Let it go. Let it die. Let it dissolve. Not because you're running, but because you're rising. This is the ascension through integration, not floating away but dropping deeper in. And in that depth, you will find your next level of purpose. Because shadow work doesn't just free you, it refines you for your mission. Every wound you've healed becomes wisdom. Every shadow you've embraced becomes strength. Every truth you've embodied becomes guidance for others. And eventually, your life becomes a lighthouse for those still lost in their own darkness, for those who are seeking but don't yet have the words, for those who need to see that healing is not only possible but powerful. You didn't come here to be perfect. You came here to be whole. And that wholeness is your superpower. That wholeness is your leadership. That wholeness is your legacy. So stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for the fear to go away. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. The moment is now. The work is you. The mission is truth. And here we are, at the edge of everything you used to be, and the beginning of everything you're becoming. You've faced the brutal truths. You've done the deep work. You've walked through the fire. And now you rise not as someone new, but as someone real. Not as a version of yourself that fits in, but as the one who remembers who they are. You are the warrior. You are the chosen one. You are the storm and the stillness. You are the light that knows its shadow and the shadow that bows to its light. And now, nothing can stop you because you are no longer afraid of yourself. Go now. Lead. Love. Live. And let the world feel the truth of your embodiment because you remembered. And now they will too.